Hey guys, Victor here again, coming at you with another retro deck profile for the September 2011 format. And today's focus is going to be on Sea Lancer frogs, which is pretty much like monarch frogs, but it's slightly different because the focus is on Sea Lancer coming in for the mid to late game to be able to, gather more resources and recycle all your frogs that have been banished. So, with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the deck profile. So we're actually going to be starting the deck profile off with the frogs because it's pretty much like the simple part of the deck. We're going to be playing 3 swap frogs, staple in every single frog deck pretty much ever, because you want to open it as often as possible to be able to foolish any other frogs or just unclog your hand, stuff of that nature. And then we're going to be playing 2 dupe frogs. While dupe frog isn't the worst, it's also not the greatest because it does miss timing, so if you tribute over a dupe frog, you will not be able to search, but that's honestly okay. Just being able to provide 2,000 defense, and then if you get both of them out on the field, basically lock your opponent out from attacking is huge. And then after that, we're going to be playing only 2 Treeborn Frog, even though it is unlimited. This deck doesn't really focus too much on Treeborn Frog because Sea Lancer, when it's summoned, equips all these cards to it for that are banished, like all your banished frogs or whatever. And then that actually does conflict with Treeborn Frog because if you have any cards in your spawn trap card zone, Treeborn Frog cannot summon itself. So while it's still a very good card, it's not the main focus of the deck. Then, after that, we're going to be playing 2 Poison Draw Frogs. Fantastic card in this specific version. If you're playing regular Frog Monarchs, this card's awful because it will always miss timing whenever you tribute it. But when you combine it with Sea Lancer, it pretty much just becomes a free +1, and then you can just keep recycling your frogs, and then eventually banishing them and then repeating the cycle through Ronin Tonin, who we only play 1 of, just because it's not really that needed. And then even if they do somehow like answer it with their like DD Crow, for example, it's fine because we want our frogs to be banished in order to, actually resolve Sea Lancer and continue to get back our resources. So they basically just -1 themselves, and we just never really need more than just the 1 Ronin Totem. So yeah, with that, that's the frog portion of the deck, and now we can get to the other half of the monster lineup. Now when it comes to the other half of this deck, we're going to be starting off with 3 Sea Lancers. Now this card's fantastic because it basically offers you a way to recycle all your resources once while it's face up on the field, because what this thing does is that, as I said, once while it's face up on the field, you can equip as many banished fish, sea serpent, or aqua type monsters from your banished zone to this card, and then for every card equipped, it gains 1,000 attack. So the reason why I said you want to wait for like the mid to late game is because typically at that point you're gonna have like a bunch of banished frogs, and one of the main ones that you want banished is Poison Draw Frog, because when you combine Sea Lancer with Poison Draw Frog, Sea Lancer protects itself, and then you're gonna draw another card off of the Poison Draw Frog, and then you just keep on like recycling and reusing your cards through Ronin, other Sea Lancers, whatever. And this is basically like a Tower's Light, if in a sense, because it's incredibly difficult to get rid of through like normal destruction means. You have to have either like a specific banish, like a Caius or a BLS, or something like a Book of Moon to be able to, flip it face down and make it lose all its materials. Just stuff like that. But in this type of format, this is still very difficult for a lot of decks to out. So yeah. And even if they get rid of 1, it's fine because you still have 2 more to be able to continue to recycle your resources, and things just continue to quickly spiral out of control for your opponent once this card hits the field. And then after that, we have like our regular Monarch stuff. So we have the 3 Caius and the 3 Raiza. We don't play anything else that requires tributes. This is all you need, mainly because you start off early with your Monarchs, and then as the game progresses, as I stated, you go into your Sea Lancers to get back all your resources and continue to thin your deck and draw and whatever. So yeah, that's it for that. And then we also play a couple hand traps. So we're playing the 2 Effect Veiler, the 2 Maxi, the 2 Trigodia, and the 1 Gores. We don't play Battle Fader just because it's honestly not that needed in this version. We don't typically leave our boards empty, especially because we have the Sea Lancer and it gives us like a bunch of cards, and yeah, we don't really need it. But that's it for the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell portion of the deck. Now for the spells, we're going to start off with 3 Enemy Controller. Now while Treeborn Frog isn't the main focus of this deck, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be taking advantage of something like Enemy Controller, just because it's still an incredibly powerful card, especially in the standby phase. You tribute a Treeborn, you take a monster, bring back Treeborn, and then compared to like Edison format, you have a lot of synchro monsters that you can make, especially since we do play our own tuners in the form of Effect Veiler. So yeah, card's just really good. And for the same reason, we're going to be playing 3 Soul Exchange. Even though it doesn't give us our battle phase, it's fine. This is a slower format. We don't care about our battle phase, but what we do care about is getting rid of our opponent's monsters and building up our own resources, which is something that Soul Exchange does offer. Then We're also going to be playing 2 Mystical Space Typhoon along with the 1 Heavy Storm to clear pretty much any back row threat that we may be facing. And then after that, just like a bunch of, generic good 1-ofs. You have the Monster Reborn, the Dark Hole, the Book of Moon, the Foolish Burial, send Treeborn, send Poison Draw, send Ronin, whatever, in case you don't open swap. And then 1/1-for-1, you can bring out either your Treeborn Frogs or your Effect Veilers in case you want to Synchro Summon. So, just options. And that's it for the main deck, 40 cards as always, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck portion of the deck. Now for the extra deck, we are of course going to be starting with the 1 Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, just a staple generic card because honestly there's always going to be some kind of space. These decks aren't as tight when it comes to the extra deck as normal, or they would become in the future, so yeah, whatever. Just keep that in there. And then we're going to be playing 2 Gachi Gachi Gentetsu. If your frogs aren't able to stall enough, this card will, because it's pretty much guaranteed to have 3 lives for the most part, unless, of course, they have like the Caius or the BLS, right? But if they waste those early, then that just means your Sea Lancers are going to become even more effective later on in the game, because they're going to be forced to answer this if they want to, actually try and play. Then we're going to be playing the 1 Leviathan Dragon and the 1 Utopia. You typically don't make these, but the option is, nice to have, because sometimes you do take a lot of monsters with enemy controller, and these are the perfect, cards to make in case you don't want them to get their cards back. And that's it for the XYZs. And then for Synchros, we're going to be playing 1 Formula Synchron. It's limited, but it's still really easy to make. You just need a Treeborn Frog and an Effect Veiler, and then you get a free draw. And since we play 1-for-1, and even just getting to the Treeborn Frog itself, right, it's super easy to do. Then after that, we're playing 1 Armory Arm, 1 Hyper Librarian, 1 Allied Justice Cataster, 1 Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier, 1 Orient Dragon, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Scrap Dragon, 1 Stardust Dragon, and lastly, 1 Trisha. Extra deck is pretty generic for the most part across all these decks, so no reason to really delve deep into it. And with that, that's the Sea Lancer deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!